Let's take a look now at how to add and subtract fractions without using a calculator. We'll use these steps here. If we have any mixed numbers to start with, we'll convert to improper fractions first. Then we'll make sure that all of our fractions have a common or the same denominator. Once they do, all we need to do is add or subtract the numerators and keep that same denominator in our answer. We'll report our answer either as a proper fraction reduced to lowest terms or a mixed number. We'll work through a few examples together. In our first example, we have 1/5, and we'd like to add it to 2/5. Notice that because we have a common or the same denominator, all of our pieces are the same size, so we can simply add them together. 1/5 plus 2/5 gives me a total of 3/5. I add the numerators together and keep the denominator the same. In the next example, though, we don't have a common denominator. We're trying to add 1/8 to 5/16. I can't simply add those numerators together because the pieces aren't the same size, so I need to find a common denominator first. I'm looking for a common multiple between the denominators I have, and I notice that if I multiply 8 by 2, I get to this same denominator of 16. So I'm going to do that. I'll multiply the denominator of 8 by 2, and whatever I do to the denominator of a fraction, I have to do to the numerator as well. So when I do that, I wind up with a fraction of 2/16. 1/8 is the same as 2/16. Now that I have a common denominator, I can do my addition. 2/16 plus 5/16. If I add the numerators together, it gives me a total of 7, and the denominator stays the same, 16. My final answer is reported as a proper fraction reduced to lowest terms. In our next example, notice that we're starting with mixed numbers and we're doing subtraction in this question. The first step is to convert our mixed numbers to improper fractions, and if you need help with that, you can review the previous video. 2 2/3 is the same as 8/3. Subtracting 1 1/2, which is the same as 3/2. I don't have a common denominator yet, so I'll follow the same steps as the previous example to find one. I notice that a common multiple of my denominators, 3 and 2, is 6. So I'm going to try and get each fraction so that it has a denominator of 6. For my first fraction, 8/3, I notice that I can multiply the denominator of 3 by 2 to get to 6. So I do the same to the numerator, which gives me 16/6. I don't have to multiply by the same number for my second fraction. Over here, to get from a denominator of 2 to 6, I need to multiply by 3. So I do the same to the numerator, giving me 9/6. Now that I have a common denominator, that stays the same in my answer, and I can do the subtraction. 16 minus 9 is 7. I'm almost done here, but this is an improper fraction, and it's best practice to report that as a mixed number. So I'm going to convert that to 1 1/6 to finish the question. Take a moment to pause the video and try the final example on your own. After converting to improper fractions, finding a common denominator, and doing the subtraction, you should find a final answer of 5/8. Next, we'll review how to multiply and divide with fractions.